The world was dying, and everyone knew it. The skies once blue were now painted in fire and smoke. Great cities that once touched the clouds were nothing more than ruins, silent and broken. The oceans boiled under alien bombardments, and the last of humanity hid in deep underground shelters, praying to gods that no longer answered. Earth had fought for years, and each battle ended the same way, with loss. Humanity was not weak, but the enemy was beyond understanding. They came from the dark edges of the galaxy, machines of flesh and metal, moving with one mind and one goal, to erase mankind. No one knew why. Some said it was revenge. Others believed humans had simply lived too long in peace, and the universe had decided to remind them of fear. Whatever the reason, it didn't matter now. Humanity was almost gone. The last human defense base lay buried beneath the mountains, a place called Bastion Point. It was cold, damp, and filled with the smell of oil, metal, and despair. Only a few thousand soldiers remained, tired faces, empty eyes, broken hearts. They had seen too much death, lost too many friends. Above them, alien ships hung in orbit like vultures waiting for the final breath. Commander Reyes stood in the control room, staring at the flickering holographic map. Red lights blinked everywhere. Every city, every outpost, every colony, gone. "Is there anyone left?" he whispered, though he already knew the answer. A young officer beside him hesitated before answering. "No, sir. The European front has fallen. The lunar base is silent. We are the last." His voice cracked. He was barely 20. Reyes closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered Earth before all this. Green forests, laughter, sunlight. Now there was only the hum of dying generators and the distant thunder of alien cannons. "Send a message," Reyes said quietly. "To anyone still listening. Tell them humanity fought till the end." The message went out into the cold void, but no one answered. 4 hours, the base was silent except for the sound of wind howling through broken tunnels. Some soldiers prayed. Others just sat staring at the ceiling, waiting for the end. Hope was a memory now, as old as the stars. Outside, the alien fleet began to descend. Massive ships like black mountains covered the sun. Their engines screamed across the atmosphere, lighting up the sky with blue fire. Earth trembled. Bastion Point shook. "They're coming," someone said softly. "This is it." Reyes gave no order to fight. There was nothing left to fight with. Ammunition was nearly gone, and their weapons couldn't even scratch alien armor anymore. Instead, he told his men to record their final words, to leave behind voices for whatever might come after. But deep inside, a strange feeling burned in his chest. Something told him this was not how it should end. Humanity had always found a way, no matter how dark things became. Maybe, somewhere there was still light. Then, it happened. The radar officer suddenly sat up. "Commander, I'm picking something up." Reyes frowned. "What is it?" "Another ship." The officer stared at the screen. "No, sir. It's human." The room froze. Every head turned. "That's impossible," Reyes said. "No human ships are left." But the signal was clear, ancient Earth codes, military grade, the kind no one had used for decades. "It's coming from deep space," the officer whispered. "Far beyond the edge of the system. It's massive." Static filled the comms, then a faint voice broke through. The sound was rough, broken by distance, but the words were unmistakable. "This is the Vanguard fleet. Earth Command, do you copy?" The room went silent. Some soldiers gasped. Others began to cry. Reyes could barely breathe. The Vanguard fleet had vanished 20 years ago, during the first days of the war. Everyone thought they were dead, lost in the dark void between galaxies. But here they were, alive. This can't be real," Reyes muttered. "We saw them destroyed." The voice came again, stronger this time. "We heard your call. We're coming home." Then the transmission ended. Outside, the alien ships were closing in. They began to charge their main cannons, preparing to erase the last human base from existence. Reyes stood still, staring at the burning horizon. He didn't know if the signal was real or just another cruel trick of fate. But then, something appeared in the sky. At first, it looked like a falling star, a streak of light cutting through the smoke. Then, another. And another. Hundreds of them. The air shook as the lights grew brighter, larger, faster. The alien ships turned their weapons upward, confused. A second later, the first explosion lit the heavens. A beam of white fire tore through an alien cruiser, slicing it apart in a single shot. Then the sky erupted in thunder. Massive ships, black and silver, dropped from orbit like gods of war. The ground trembled as their cannons roared to life. Inside Bastion Point, soldiers stared through the viewports, speechless. The young officer whispered, "They came back." Reyes smiled for the first time in years. "No," he said softly, eyes shining with disbelief and pride. "They never left." Above them, Earth's mightiest warriors had returned from the void. And for the first time in a long time, humanity dared to hope again. The news spread through Bastion Point like wildfire. For hours, no one spoke loudly, as if afraid that a single sound would shatter the fragile miracle that had appeared in the skies. The soldiers crowded near the observation decks, eyes wide, watching the dark clouds split apart. Above the burning horizon, the massive shapes of human warships glowed like suns rising through smoke. They moved in perfect formation, sharp, silent, and full of power. It was a sight no one thought they would ever see again. The Vanguard fleet, lost 20 years ago in the First Great War, had returned. No one knew how. No one dared to ask. But every heart in Bastion Point began to beat faster. For the first time in years, the sound of hope echoed in the silence of despair. Commander Reyes stood before the main screen, staring as identification codes streamed across the display. The readings were unmistakable. These ships were human, but there was something different about them. Their designs were unfamiliar, their energy signatures impossibly strong. Their hulls shimmered with strange patterns of light that no one could identify. "They're ours," the radar officer said, voice trembling. "But different." Reyes leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "Different how?" The officer shook his head. "I don't know, sir. They don't match any human tech we know. It's like they've been rebuilt." Reyes turned to the communications panel. "Open a channel." Static filled the air, followed by a faint hum. Then a calm voice came through. It was deep, steady, carrying the weight of years. "This is Admiral Kale of the Vanguard Fleet. Earth Command, do you copy?" Reyes hesitated for a heartbeat before answering. "This is Commander Reyes of Bastion Point. We thought you were gone." There was a pause, then the voice replied, "We were. But the void did not take us. It changed us." Those words chilled the room. Everyone listened, silent, waiting for more. Kale continued, his tone dark and measured. "We entered the void chasing the enemy's main fleet 20 years ago. We thought we could cut off their reinforcements, end the war before it reached Earth. But the void, it wasn't just empty space. It was something alive, something vast. Time moved differently there. Days became years, and years became moments. We fought, we learned, and we survived." Reyes clenched his fists. "How did you come back?" Kale's voice softened. "We were shown the way. The void is not only death. It is knowledge. It revealed to us what the enemy truly is, and how to end them." A low murmur spread through the room. The soldiers looked at each other with disbelief and awe. The officer beside Reyes whispered, "End them?" "Sir," he said, "end them." But Reyes wasn't smiling. Something in Kale's voice carried a shadow. He had heard many commanders speak, but never one who sounded like that. Calm, cold, and burdened by something heavy. Outside, the Vanguard fleet moved closer, descending through the atmosphere. Their ships burned through the clouds like falling stars. The ground shook as they approached, but the alien fleet was not idle. The enemy quickly regrouped, forming a dark ring around Earth, ready to strike again. The alien flagship sent out a deep pulse, an eerie signal that echoed across the sky. It was a challenge. A warning. The enemy had noticed the return of the humans and would not allow it. From Bastion Point, Reyes watched as beams of blue light cut through the clouds. The aliens were firing first. But before the energy blasts could strike, the vanguard ships responded. Their weapons were unlike anything ever seen before. Streams of golden light that curved through the air, bending like serpents of fire. Each shot hit with surgical precision, tearing enemy cruisers apart. The sound that followed was like thunder mixed with the roar of a storm. The alien ships broke formation. For the first time, they were retreating. The soldiers inside Bastion Point cheered, but Kale's voice interrupted them. "This is not victory," he said. "This is only the beginning." His tone was sharp, almost emotionless. "Prepare your wounded. We are sending dropships to your position. The enemy will return stronger. They always do." Reyes nodded and ordered his men to open the landing platforms. As the dropships descended, the soldiers ran to meet them. When the doors opened, silence fell again. The warriors who stepped out looked human, but changed. Their armor shimmered with metallic veins of light. Their eyes glowed faintly, like embers. Their movements were too precise, too controlled. They carried weapons that seemed to hum with energy, alive in their hands. One of them approached Reyes and removed his helmet. The face beneath was familiar. Captain Aiden Vale, one of the youngest heroes from the early war, long thought dead. His hair was streaked with silver now, and a scar ran across his cheek. He smiled faintly. "It's good to see Earth again," he said quietly. "Though it feels smaller than I remember." Reyes stared at him, lost for words. "How did you survive, Captain? What happened to you out there?" Aiden's expression darkened. "The void tests those who enter it. It breaks them or remakes them. We were remade." He looked up at the burning sky. "And now, it's time to finish what we started." That night, as the vanguard fleet circled the Earth like silent guardians, Reyes stood outside the command post. Above him, the stars glimmered faintly through the smoke. For the first time in years, they didn't look cold. But in his heart, a question remained: what had the void truly done to these warriors? And what price had they paid to return? He didn't know the answer, but one thing was clear. Humanity had been given one last chance. And this time, it would not go quietly into the dark. Night had fallen over the shattered world, and yet the sky still burned with distant fire. From the underground corridors of Bastion Point, humanity watched the strange lights that shimmered above the clouds. The vanguard fleet, those who had returned from the void, now orbited Earth like ghosts of forgotten legends. Every eye looked up in silent awe and uneasy wonder. For 2 decades, they had been names written in stone, heroes of the past. Now, they were flesh and blood again. But there was something different about them, something that didn't feel entirely human anymore. Commander Reyes could not sleep. He walked through the base's narrow halls, listening to the hum of new machines that had come with the returning warriors. The vanguard engineers had already begun repairing Bastion Point, their technology far beyond anything Earth scientists had ever created. Metal seemed to grow and shape itself under their tools. Generators hummed with a strange blue energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Reyes stopped and touched one of the walls. It was warm, almost alive. "What did you bring back from the void?" he whispered under his breath. In the main hangar, Captain Aiden Vale stood surrounded by young soldiers. They watched as he moved through training drills, his every motion silent and perfect, like a blade cutting through air. His armor reacted to his thoughts, shifting color and form. The younger troops stared with wide eyes, half inspired, half afraid. One brave soldier finally asked, "Sir, what's it like out there?" "In the void." Aiden paused, his expression distant. "It's not a place," he said quietly. "It's a trial. A mirror that shows you what you truly are." He looked up, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. We went into the dark to destroy our enemy. Instead, we found something waiting for us. Watching us. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Aiden seemed to sense their fear. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "It changed us, yes. But it also saved us. The void is more than death, it's a forge. And we came out stronger." Later that night, Reyes met with Admiral Kale inside the command room. The admiral stood tall, his presence commanding and cold. His armor was darker than the others, etched with symbols no one could read. "You've seen our technology," Kale said, his tone calm but heavy. "You've seen what we've become. I know you have questions." Reyes nodded slowly. "Many. The truth, Admiral. How did you survive 20 years in a place where time itself doesn't work?" Kale looked out the window at the burning horizon. "We didn't survive," he said after a long pause. "Not in the way you think. The void consumed us. Our ships were torn apart. Many died in the first week. Those who remained heard voices, whispers in the dark. They offered us power, knowledge, and the chance to fight back. We accepted." He turned to face Reyes. "We became something new. Not entirely human, not entirely machine. But enough of both to stand against what's coming." "What's coming?" Reyes asked. Kale's eyes narrowed. "You think the war is only against the invaders you see? They're just the hand of something far greater. The void showed us their masters. The architects, the ones who built the stars, who believe humanity is a mistake that must be erased. The enemy we fought before was only their shadow." Reyes felt the air grow colder. "And you believe we can fight gods?" Kale's mouth curved into the smallest hint of a smile. "We don't need to fight gods," he said. "We just need to remind them that humans don't kneel." Outside, a storm gathered. Thunder rolled over the mountains as alien ships regrouped in orbit. The Vanguard fleet had won the first battle, but the enemy was adapting fast. Strange signals pulsed from the upper atmosphere, like a heartbeat answering Earth's own. The void had returned something powerful, but the enemy had felt it too. Down in the barracks, the soldiers whispered stories about the lost legion. They spoke of their glowing eyes, their emotionless stares, and the strange hum that followed them wherever they walked. Some said they were no longer human. Others believed they were angels sent by the universe itself. Only Aiden seemed to carry both truth and sadness in equal measure. He often stood alone at the edge of the landing platform, looking up at the stars. When a young mechanic approached and asked what he was thinking, Aiden simply said, "I'm wondering if we truly came home, or if we brought the void back with us." The next morning, the first dawn in weeks painted the clouds gold. The Vanguard began deploying ground forces to rebuild defenses around the planet. Their ships created shields that shimmered across the sky, protecting what was left of Earth. For the first time, the air didn't smell like ash. The people began to believe again. But Reyes couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. These warriors had been remade by forces beyond human understanding. Whatever they had seen in that endless darkness, it had changed them in ways no one could measure. As the sun rose higher, Admiral Kale gave his final words for the day. "The enemy believes we're broken," he said, his voice echoing through the base. "But they have forgotten one truth: humanity is the storm that never dies. We were lost, yes. But in the void, we found something greater than survival. We found purpose." The soldiers cheered, their voices rising like thunder in the hollow mountain. Yet deep inside, Reyes felt a chill. Purpose could be a dangerous thing, especially when forged in the heart of darkness. He looked at Aiden one last time, standing alone beneath the brightening sky. For a moment, he thought he saw something moving in Aiden's shadow, a faint shimmer like the edge of a different reality. Then it was gone. The commander turned away, uneasy. Humanity's greatest warriors had returned, but the question that haunted him would not fade. Had the lost legion truly come back to save them, or to finish something far older than the war itself? Dawn came with fire instead of light. The morning sky above Earth glowed red, and the air trembled with the sound of distant engines. The alien fleet was returning, larger and more furious than before. Their ships formed black patterns across the sky, like scars burning through the clouds. Inside Bastion Point, alarms screamed, and the command center lit up with warning lights. Commander Reyes rushed to the main console. "Report," he shouted. A young officer, pale and shaking, responded quickly. "Multiple enemy signatures, sir. Thousands of ships entering orbit. They're not waiting this time." Reyes gritted his teeth. "Then neither will we." Above the planet, the Vanguard fleet stirred like awakening giants. Admiral Cale stood on the bridge of his flagship, Vengeance, eyes fixed on the storm of alien vessels spreading across the horizon. His crew waited for orders, silent and focused. Cale's voice came low and calm, like steel being drawn from its sheath. "All ships, form the iron wall. We hold the skies." At once, hundreds of ships moved in unison, forming a shield over Earth. Their engines roared, and beams of golden energy charged across their hulls. For a moment, it looked as if a second sun was rising. From the surface, people watched in awe as the sky lit up. A farmer in the ruins of Argentina, a child hiding in the tunnels beneath London, a medic tending to the wounded in Bastion Point, all looked up and saw the same thing, hope burning bright in the heavens. Humanity's warriors had returned, and they were ready to fight. The alien fleet fired first. Blue plasma bolts rained down like meteors, tearing through the atmosphere, shaking mountains, and boiling the seas. The earth cracked under the pressure. For a heartbeat, it seemed that the sky itself would fall. But then the Vanguard answered. Columns of golden fire shot upward, colliding with the alien barrage midair. The explosion was like thunder rolling across the world. From orbit, beams of white energy cut through the enemy ranks with surgical precision. Entire cruisers dissolved into dust and flame. The battle had begun. The sky was no longer just burning, it was alive. In the command room, Reyes watched the battle unfold on the holographic display. "How long can they hold?" he asked. Aiden Vale, standing beside him in full armor, replied without hesitation. "As long as it takes." His voice carried a strange calmness, as if the chaos outside barely touched him. Reyes glanced at him, studying his glowing eyes. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Aiden smiled faintly. "Many times. But never for home." Outside, the Vanguard dropships launched from orbit, streaking through the atmosphere like falling stars. They carried soldiers, men and women of the Lost Legion, back to Earth's surface. Their mission was simple: defend the planet from the ground. The first wave landed on the outskirts of what was once New Berlin. The city was nothing but twisted metal and ash, yet the soldiers moved through it like ghosts, silent and efficient. Their weapons hummed with void energy, cutting through alien ground forces that had begun to descend. Every shot was precise. Every motion perfect. They fought like beings who had already seen death and refused to bow to it. Back in Bastion Point, Reyes coordinated defenses. "Activate the planetary shields," he ordered. The engineers worked quickly, rerouting energy from the new Vanguard generators. A blue shimmer spread across the mountains as a protective dome formed over the base. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to hold back the first wave of bombardments. Reyes turned to the comms officer. "Get me Admiral Cale." Static crackled, then the Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. "We're holding, Commander," Cale said. "But the enemy's adapting. They're trying to break through our lines. Prepare your ground teams." Reyes nodded. "We'll hold the ground. You hold the sky." Cale gave a short, grim smile. "That's the spirit I remember." Moments later, the base shook violently. A massive explosion erupted near the northern ridge. "Impact in Sector 7, someone shouted. "The aliens are landing." Reyes grabbed his rifle, the same weapon he had carried since the First War. "All units, to the surface. Let's show them Earth still fights." He sprinted through the corridors with his men following behind. When they emerged outside, the sight before them stole their breath. The mountains were burning. Alien war machines, tall as towers, walked through the smoke. Their armor glowed with blue light, and their cannons rained destruction with every step. But through the chaos, streaks of gold and silver fell from the heavens. The Lost Legion had arrived. Aiden landed beside Reyes, his armor hissing as it touched the ground. "We take the ridge," he said calmly. Reyes nodded. "You take left, I'll cover right." The ground battle began with a roar. Bullets, plasma, and energy fire filled the air. The sound was deafening, the light blinding. Aiden moved like lightning, his sword cutting through alien armor as if it were paper. Every strike was precise, controlled. Reyes fought beside him, covering his flank. For the first time, humanity wasn't running, it was standing its ground. Hours passed like minutes. The sun disappeared behind smoke, and still, the battle raged. The air was thick with ash and the smell of burning metal. Yet through it all, the vanguard held. When the last alien dropship exploded in a ball of flame, a strange silence fell over the battlefield. Reyes looked up. The sky was still burning, but the enemy was retreating. The clouds parted, revealing the shining hulls of the vanguard ships above. Reyes dropped to one knee, exhausted. "We did it," he whispered. Aiden stood beside him, breathing slowly, eyes fixed on the sky. "This was only the first wave," he said. "The architects will not stop here." Reyes frowned. "Architects?" But Aiden said nothing more. He turned toward the horizon, where faint lights flickered beyond the clouds, something vast, waiting in the dark beyond sight. That night, as fires burned across the mountains and the last soldiers returned to the base, Reyes stood on the landing platform and looked at the stars. They were still bright, still distant, and yet somehow closer than ever. Humanity had fought back. The sky had burned again, but this time, it burned for them. And deep in the silence between the stars, something was watching. Something that had finally noticed that Earth still lived. The smoke of battle still hung over the mountains when morning came. The world below was quiet, but it was not peace. The air smelled of ash and metal, and the ground was littered with the remains of alien machines. Humanity had survived the night, but everyone knew it was only a pause, not an ending. The soldiers of Bastion Point worked in silence, repairing defenses, clearing debris, and tending to the wounded. Every man and woman carried the same thought: the enemy would return. The war had not ended. It had only changed shape. Commander Reyes walked through the wreckage, his boots crunching over shattered armor and burnt stone. His uniform was torn, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes were steady. Around him, soldiers saluted quietly as he passed. He nodded to each of them, his heart heavy with pride and sorrow. Humanity had fought back and won a single victory, but the cost was written on every face he saw. So many were gone. Yet as he looked toward the horizon, where the smoke thinned into golden light, he felt something new. Determination. The Lost Legion had saved them, but Reyes knew that victory came with questions. These warriors were not the same men and women who had vanished into the void 20 years ago. They were faster, stronger, and quieter. Their armor moved like living metal, and their weapons hummed with power that defied logic. Some of the younger soldiers whispered that they were no longer human, that the void had turned them into something else. Reyes wasn't sure what to believe, but he knew one thing: their return had changed everything. In the command room, Admiral Kale stood before a holographic map of the solar system. The alien fleet had retreated beyond Mars, regrouping and rebuilding. New signals appeared every hour, strange energy readings from deep space. Kale's eyes narrowed as he studied them. "They're calling for reinforcements," he said. "The architects have noticed us." His voice was calm, but everyone in the room felt the chill behind those words. The architects. The name alone sounded ancient, powerful, and terrifying. Reyes stepped forward. "You mentioned them before, Admiral. What are they?" Kale turned slowly, the light of the map reflecting off his armor. "The true enemy," he said. "The ones who made the void. The ones who believe humanity should never have existed. Reyes frowned. And you've seen them? Kale nodded once. Not seen, felt. They hide behind their creations, behind these machines that slaughter worlds. But in the void, they spoke to us. They called us trespassers in their design. They said we were chaos, a mistake that needed correction. But we refused to die quietly. We learned their secrets. We learned how to fight them. His hand rested on the table, fingers curling into a fist. The war never ended, Commander. It only waited for us to come home. Outside, the Vanguard engineers were building something enormous. Towers of silver metal rose from the earth, humming with unseen energy. Their designs were alien and human at the same time, fusion of two worlds. What are they building? Reyes asked. Aiden Vale appeared beside him, his armor darkened with soot from battle. A gate, he said simply. A bridge between worlds. The void isn't just space, it's a doorway. If we want to end this war, we have to go through it again. Reyes looked at him, disbelief flashing across his face. You want to go back? Aiden nodded slowly. We have no choice. The architects won't stop. They'll send more fleets, more monsters. If we wait, they'll burn what's left of Earth. We need to take the fight to them. Reyes turned away, anger and fear mixing in his chest. We just got you back, and now you're talking about leaving again? Aiden's expression softened. We came back for a reason, Commander. We're not meant to stay. The void gave us the power to fight the enemy where they live. Humanity needs time to rebuild. We'll buy that time. His voice was calm, but Reyes could hear the weight behind every word. These men and women had already sacrificed everything once. They were ready to do it again. As night fell, the Vanguard ships hovered silently above the planet, their lights glowing like stars. The alien fleet was still distant, but the tension in the air was heavy. Everyone could feel it, the calm before another storm. Reyes stood on the surface, watching the construction of the gate. Energy crackled through the air as the structure pulsed with golden light. It looked like a tear in the sky, a hole that led to somewhere far beyond human understanding. Will it hold? He asked. Aiden smiled faintly. It has to. Hours later, as the base settled into uneasy rest, a sudden alarm echoed through the tunnels. Reyes rushed to the control room. What happened? He demanded. The radar officer turned, eyes wide. Something's coming through the void, sir. Not them, something else. Static filled the screens, and then an image appeared, massive, dark, and alive. It was unlike any ship they had seen before, a shadow moving with purpose. The entire room fell silent. Aiden stared at the image and whispered, "They're here." Before anyone could respond, the ground shook violently. Lights flickered, and the sound of explosions rolled through the mountains. The alien fleet had returned faster than expected, launching a surprise assault from orbit. Fire lit the night sky once more. Reyes grabbed his weapon and shouted into the comms. All units to positions. Defend the gate. Outside, the first wave of alien drones broke through the clouds, firing streams of blue energy at the base. The battle had begun again. As explosions thundered across the mountains, Reyes heard Aiden's voice through the comms, steady and strong. This is not the end, he said. This is the war that never ended. The words echoed through every heart in the base, filling the air with something fierce and unbreakable. Humanity was tired, wounded, and outnumbered, but it was not done. Not yet. As the sky burned once more and the earth trembled beneath their feet, the soldiers of Earth fought on, side by side with the lost legion. And somewhere in the dark beyond the stars, the architects watched, realizing that their perfect silence had been broken. Humanity was still here, and it would never stop fighting. The mountains shook under the weight of the new assault. Explosions rolled across the horizon like thunder, painting the night sky in red and blue fire. Bastion Point burned again, its walls shaking as the alien fleet unleashed wave after wave of destruction. The ground forces fought desperately, their weapons glowing in the dark, every shot a small spark of defiance against the endless storm. Commander Reyes stood at the front lines, shouting orders over the roar of battle. "Hold the gate. Don't let them through." His voice cut through the chaos, but deep down, he knew the enemy wasn't trying to destroy them this time. They were trying to stop the gate from activating. Above them, the Vanguard fleet fought like gods in the heavens. Their ships darted between alien cruisers, firing beams of golden light that tore through enemy ranks. But the enemy had changed. Their ships adapted quickly, absorbing energy, learning from each attack. Admiral Cale watched from the bridge of his flagship, eyes cold and focused. "They're evolving," he said quietly. "Just like before." His second-in-command looked at him in shock. "Then how do we stop them, sir?" Cale didn't answer right away. Instead, his gaze shifted toward the glowing gate far below on the planet's surface. "We stop them the way we were taught, in the void." On the ground, Aiden Vale moved through the battlefield like a shadow of light. His armor pulsed with energy as he cut through alien soldiers with precision strikes. Around him, the Lost Legion fought with mechanical grace, their every movement flawless and deadly. They didn't shout, they didn't hesitate, they fought like one mind. But even they were starting to fall. The enemy's new weapons burned through armor that once seemed indestructible. Aiden could feel it. The aliens were learning their patterns, their strengths, their weaknesses. Something had to change, or humanity would lose again. As Aiden cut through another wave of drones, his communicator crackled to life. "Aiden," Reyes's voice came through, strained and urgent. "We can't hold much longer. The north wall's collapsing." Aiden glanced toward the ridge where smoke and fire rose into the night. "I'm on my way." He sprinted through the burning ruins, dodging plasma blasts and explosions, until he reached the ridge. Reyes was there, covered in dust and blood but still fighting. "We can't keep this up," Reyes shouted. Aiden's eyes glowed brighter as he looked toward the sky. "Then it's time," he said. "Time to tell you the truth." Reyes frowned. "What truth?" Aiden looked at him with a heavy expression, the firelight flickering across his scarred face. "The real reason we came back. The secret of the enemy." He pointed toward the sky, where the alien fleet burned like a storm of light. "They're not what they seem, Commander. They were human, long ago." Reyes froze. "What are you talking about?" Aiden's voice dropped lower. "The void showed us everything. The architects aren't gods. They're the future we were never meant to become. They were once human, an ancient branch of us that left this galaxy ages ago. They evolved beyond flesh, beyond emotion, turning themselves into perfect logic, perfect control. They built the void as a weapon, a prison for everything imperfect. And when they saw us rising again, they decided to erase us before we could make their mistakes." Reyes stared at him, disbelief written on his face. "You're saying we're fighting our own descendants?" Aiden nodded grimly. "In a way. They became something that forgot what it meant to feel, to dream, to hope. To them, humanity is a disease that must be corrected." Reyes clenched his fists. "Then we'll remind them what it means to fight for something real." Aiden smiled faintly. "That's why we came back. The void didn't just change us, it showed us their weakness. For all their power, they can't understand what makes us strong. They fear it." Before Reyes could ask more, the ground shook violently. A massive shadow appeared above them, a colossal alien warship descending through the clouds, its hull glowing with blue light. The air vibrated as it released energy pulses that tore through the mountain. "Fall back," Reyes shouted. But Aiden didn't move. He looked at the ship, his eyes burning brighter. "That's the core ship," he said. "It carries the architect's code, their command mind. If we destroy it, we break their control." Reyes looked up at the monstrous vessel. "And how do we do that?" Aiden's armor began to glow, the energy rising like a storm. "We don't," he said quietly. "I do." Before Reyes could stop him, Aiden activated his jet thrusters and shot into the sky, streaking toward the enemy ship like a comet. The air roared as he broke through the clouds, dodging plasma fire and debris. He landed on the ship's hull, tearing through armor with his glowing blade. Inside, he could hear whispers, cold, mechanical voices echoing through his mind. "Return to us. You were never meant to leave." Aiden gritted his teeth. "Maybe," he whispered. "But I remember what you forgot." With a scream, he drove his blade deep into the ship's core. The explosion that followed lit up the entire sky. The shockwave spread across the battlefield, tearing through the alien lines. The massive warship split apart, burning as it fell into the mountains below. Every alien drone in the air stopped moving, their lights flickering out. The silence that followed was deafening. On the ground, Reyes shielded his eyes from the light. "Aiden!" he called out through the comms. There was no answer. Only static. Hours later, when the smoke finally cleared, the battlefield was quiet. The enemy was gone, their ships retreating into the darkness of space. Bastion Point still stood, damaged but alive. Reyes looked up at the stars, wondering if Aiden had survived. Somewhere out there, among the ashes of the fallen fleet, a faint light moved across the sky. A single streak of gold cutting through the night. Reyes smiled weakly. "You did it," he whispered. "You found their secret." But deep in the void, far beyond the reach of any human eye, something vast stirred. The architects had felt the loss. Their network had been broken, their silence disturbed. And as they awakened, their cold voices echoed through the stars, whispering one promise: the war is not over. The night after the great battle was cold and silent. The smoke had thinned, the stars had returned, and for the first time in weeks, the people of Earth could see the sky without fire. Bastion Point was nearly in ruins, but it stood. The survivors moved like ghosts through the wreckage, searching for the wounded, repairing what they could, whispering the same name again and again: Aiden Vale. No one knew if he had lived or died. They had seen the explosion, the sky burn with gold, the alien fleet crumble, and yet no signal came from him. Commander Reyes stood on the highest ridge, his armor cracked, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The world was quiet, but it wasn't peace. Deep down, he knew this silence was only the calm before something far greater. At dawn, the first light spread across the mountains. The sun broke through the clouds, painting the ruins in shades of red and gold. Reyes watched it rise, his chest tight with both sorrow and pride. They had survived again, but the cost was written everywhere. Too many graves, too many empty helmets scattered in the dust. As he turned to leave, a faint sound came from his communicator, a weak signal, buried in static. His heart leapt. "This is Commander Reyes," he said quickly. "Identify yourself." For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, a familiar voice came through, faint but steady. "Reyes, it's Aiden." Reyes froze, his breath catching in his throat. "You're alive," he said. "Where are you?" The voice came again, distorted by interference. "Not for long. The explosion threw me back into the void. I've seen things, Commander. The architects, they're coming. Not ships this time, something worse." Reyes clenched his fists. "What do you mean, worse?" But before Aiden could answer, the signal broke, replaced by a deep, echoing hum that vibrated through the air. The sky above the base darkened, not from clouds but from something massive blocking the sunlight. The soldiers looked up in terror as a colossal shadow spread across the heavens. It was not a ship. It was something alive. A structure that moved like it breathed, shaped like a ring made of black light. It hung in the sky above Earth, silent and endless. "What in God's name is that?" someone whispered. Reyes didn't answer. He could feel it, the same energy that came from the void. The architects had opened a gate of their own. Kale's voice came over the radio from orbit. "All forces, prepare for impact. They're breaking through dimensional space." The ground trembled as cracks of white light spread across the sky, tearing reality itself apart. Through those cracks, shapes began to emerge. dark figures, vast and shifting, their forms impossible to define. Reyes turned to his troops. "Everyone to positions. We hold the line again." Even as fear spread through the ranks, no one ran. They had fought too long, lost too much, to run now. As the first of the new enemy descended, the sky lit up once more. But this time, it was not just alien ships. It was something ancient, something that seemed to whisper into every human mind. Words without sound. "You cannot fight the inevitable. You are echoes of chaos." Reyes raised his rifle, his voice breaking the silence. "Then let chaos fight back." The battle began again. The alien energy crashed into Earth's defenses like a storm of lightning. Cities around the world flickered as the skies tore open. Bastion Point became the last beacon of resistance. Kale's fleet fired everything it had, but the enemy's forms were too vast, too strange. Every time one fell, another appeared. "They're not physical," Kale realized. "They're projections, echoes from the void itself." Reyes's voice came through the comms, steady despite the chaos. "Then we find their source. There's always a core." Suddenly, a blinding light burst from the center of the massive ring in the sky. The gate was opening wider. And from within, a single golden streak shot out, Aiden Vale. His armor was cracked and glowing, his body surrounded by energy so bright it hurt to look at. He fell through the atmosphere like a falling star, landing hard near the gate at Bastion Point. Reyes ran to him, kneeling beside the broken soldier. "Aiden, what did you see?" Aiden looked up weakly, his eyes shining with golden fire. "Their heart," he whispered. "It's not in space, it's inside the void itself. They're using Earth as an anchor point. If we destroy the gate, we can cut them off, for good." Reyes looked at the massive structure above them. "How?" Aiden smiled faintly. "You already know how. The same way we always do. Together." He tried to stand, his armor sparking, but Reyes caught him. "You can't go alone again," he said. "You won't come back this time." Aiden looked at him with a tired grin. "Then make sure it's worth it." Before Reyes could stop him, Aiden activated his armor and flew toward the ring. Kale's fleet followed, forming a protective wall around him. Alien energy beams cut through the air, striking ships and tearing them apart, but the vanguard didn't waver. They had one mission, to give Aiden time. As he neared the gate, Aiden could see the center, pure white light surrounded by swirling darkness. Voices filled his mind again, colder this time. "You cannot destroy what you are made from." Aiden's voice was calm. "Maybe not. But I can remind you what we used to be." He reached the center, his armor glowing so bright it became blinding. With one last burst of strength, he plunged into the light. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the sky exploded with golden fire. The ring shattered, breaking into 1,000 fragments of light that rained down over the planet like falling stars. The alien forms vanished, their whispers fading into silence. The gate was gone. Reyes stood beneath the raining light, tears in his eyes. Kale's voice came faintly over the comms. "It's over, Commander." Reyes shook his head slowly. "No," he said softly. "It's the beginning." As the first light of dawn touched the earth, he looked toward the sky, where one golden star still moved among the fading debris. "Rest easy, Aiden Vale," he whispered. "You gave us our final dawn." The golden rain fell for hours after the sky exploded. Shards of light drifted down like soft snow, touching the ruins of Earth with a strange, quiet beauty. The people who had survived stepped out from their shelters and watched the heavens in awe. The war was over, or at least, that was what everyone hoped. The alien fleets were gone, the skies were clear, and the strange hum that had haunted the world since the first invasion had vanished. But beneath that silence was something else, a strange emptiness that felt both peaceful and uncertain. Humanity had survived, but at a cost that could never be measured. Commander Reyes stood among the wreckage of Bastion Point, his armor scorched and cracked, his eyes turned toward the sky where the ring had once been. The light still shimmered faintly above, like the echo of a dream fading with the dawn. Reyes closed his eyes for a moment and let the wind wash over him. The air smelled clean again, fresh after so much fire and smoke. Around him, survivors were helping each other, clearing debris, gathering supplies. There was no cheering, no celebration, only quiet determination. Humanity had learned something in the endless war: survival wasn't victory. Survival was only the start of rebuilding. As he turned to walk toward the damaged command center, a voice called out behind him. "Commander!" It was Lieutenant Arya Sol, her arm in a sling, her face tired but bright. "We're picking up something on long-range sensors," she said. Reyes froze. "Alien." She shook her head. "No, sir. It's human. A distress signal. It's coming from the edge of the void." For a moment, Reyes couldn't speak. His mind went back to that golden light, to Aiden Vale diving into the heart of the gate. "Patch it through," he said finally. The speakers crackled with static. Then, faintly, a voice came through, distorted, weak, but unmistakably human. "This is Captain Aiden Vale. If anyone can hear me, the war isn't over." The room went silent. Everyone stared at the console, barely breathing. The signal continued. "I destroyed the architect's anchor, but their core still exists. It's far deeper than we imagined. I don't have much time. Tell them the void isn't what we thought. It's alive." Then the transmission cut off. Reyes stood still, the words echoing in his head. "The void is alive." He looked up at the holographic map that still flickered weakly above the command table. Somewhere out there, beyond the edges of known space, beyond even the scars left by the architects, was something else. Something that had been waiting long before the war began. "Can we trace it?" he asked quietly. Arya nodded. "Barely." The signal came from deep inside the old coordinates, the same sector where the first human colony vanished 100 years ago. Reyes clenched his fists. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "If Aiden's alive, we're bringing him home. And if he's right, we're not done fighting." Over the next few weeks, Earth began to rebuild. The cities that had been left in ruins came back to life with the help of the vanguard engineers who remained. Kale's surviving ships formed a new defense line around the planet. The people had changed. Fear had turned into unity, despair into determination. Humanity had seen the edge of extinction and refused to fall. But even in this fragile peace, rumors spread, strange lights appearing at the edge of the solar system, signals that seemed to come and go like whispers. Reyes stood on the launch deck of the rebuilt flagship Eternal Dawn, watching as ships prepared for departure. "You're really doing this," Arya said beside him. Reyes nodded slowly. "Aiden went into the dark to save us. Now it's our turn to go after him." As the fleet rose into the sky, the people of Earth watched from below. The ships shimmered like silver birds climbing into the clouds. Reyes felt a familiar weight in his chest, the same feeling he'd had when the war first began. Fear, hope, and something else. Purpose. They weren't going into battle this time. They were going in search of answers. The void had been humanity's enemy for so long, but now it had become something greater, a mystery they had to understand before it returned. Days passed as the fleet moved through the outer edges of the system. The stars stretched like rivers of light, and the silence of space felt endless. Then, one by one, the ships began picking up faint readings, energy pulses that matched the old architect's signatures, but twisted, weaker, almost organic. "It's like something's breathing," Arya whispered as they stared at the data. Reyes felt the hairs on his neck rise. "He was right," he murmured. "The void is alive." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. The stars ahead began to distort, bending and twisting like reflections on water. A massive shape emerged from the darkness, not mechanical, not alive, but something in between. Its surface glowed faintly, patterns moving like veins of light. Reyes stared at it, speechless. "My God," he said. "It's beautiful." The creature, or structure, moved slowly, its form shifting as though it was made of liquid metal and light. And then, through the static of the ship's comms, Aiden's voice came again, clearer this time. "You made it," he said. "Don't be afraid. It's not our enemy. It's what's left of them, the part that remembered who they used to be." The bridge fell silent. Reyes stepped forward, his eyes locked on the glowing being ahead. "Aiden, what are you saying?" The voice came softly. "The architects tried to erase humanity because they forgot where they came from. But not all of them wanted to. This is the last of their kind, and it's dying. It wants to help us rebuild." Before Reyes could respond, a bright pulse of light spread from the creature, washing over every ship in the fleet. In an instant, systems repaired, energy levels surged, and a wave of calm filled the crew. It wasn't an attack, it was a gift. A message. Remember who you are. Then the light faded, and the massive shape began to dissolve into dust, drifting back into the endless dark. The void closed around it like an ocean swallowing a wave. Reyes stood in silence, his heart heavy yet full. Humanity's greatest enemies had once been its own lost future, but even in their end, they had chosen to give something back. Hope. "Set course for home," he said quietly. As the fleet turned toward Earth, the first rays of a distant sun lit their path. The war was over, but the journey of humanity was not. For in the echoes of tomorrow, beyond fear, beyond loss, there would always be one truth. No matter how dark the night, humanity would rise again.